Thanks, James. Yeah, hi everyone. For anyone that doesn't know who I am, my name is Khalil Hamond, and I work with Mobile Insurance here in Edmonton. I'm just going to ask a quick question, and you can respond with ones. Has anyone had any problems insuring a property recently? You can reply with just a one. And we'll kind of see if anyone has had an issue. If not, no? You can add to the chat. Put a one if you've had a problem insuring a property recently. It could be due to age. It could be something like that. No? Okay. So I'm going to kind of break this apart into a couple different forms. We're going to start with single-family dwellings and the impact of maintenance and renovations on them. And then we're going to kind of talk about multifamily, and they are in a bad spot overall. Generally speaking, when we're looking at the impact of renovations and maintenance on how it impacts an insurance policy, it kind of comes down to two things. The insurance industry as a whole has kind of taken a standpoint on anything that's older than 25 years, you should have or try to get to full maintenance and updates. So it's not as particular on single-family dwellings, but you people that own multi-family dwellings like condo buildings, 24-unit apartments, multi-unit apartments, you're probably feeling the pinch, and you're also probably experiencing significant rate increases, and that's just due to an overall loss of what they say is unprofitable class of business. And so I'm going to start with the single-family stuff. So for you people that have had issues, generally speaking, when we're pricing out and looking for a policy for a customer, the newer stuff is always easier to deal with. Now, that's not the case for most people. You guys are probably investing in older property. It could be 10, 15, 20 years old. So to the topic of how maintenance and renovations are important, when we're looking at a property and its insurability, it becomes very difficult if a property is, let's say, over 40 years old, has no updates to the electrical, plumbing, heating, roof, hot water tank. So when we're looking at what class of business is easy, that's why when I say it's newer, it's easier to deal with, and the price is going to be a lot cheaper. So if you're buying an older property of any kind, the first thing you could probably expect is for your insurance broker or the insurance company to say, you need to fully update this building. Now, that's not what anyone wants to hear because some of these renovations can be quite expensive, and I'll give you an example. I've got a customer that just bought a 12-unit apartment, can't get it insured unless he fully renovates the electrical, the plumbing, the boiler, the roof, and it's looking like it's going to be $250,000. So that kind of gives you an idea. Now, how can you guys, when you're buying property, what can you look for? Obviously, if it's been taken care of and these have been done, those are the kind of properties you're going to want to pursue. If you're purchasing a home where the previous homeowner has renovated or updated them, those should be your first look if that's what you're looking for in the market. If you're looking for something that's older and the price point is right, you want to confirm. That should be the first conversation if you're looking at it from an insurance standpoint on the ease of insuring it, is what's been done to this property. Now, some people sometimes don't know, and that's going to be the first problem, but that's where you should kind of start. Kind of get a feeling for what's been done to the building that I'm about to purchase and what am I going to have to do. Because if it's the electrical and the plumbing is done, well, you have to replace the roof in 5 years or the hot water tank. Now, this is mostly relating to single family. Now, we're going to talk about apartments, and I know there's a lot of people probably in here that are having issues with multifamily. Multifamily year over year, just in our office alone, has experienced 200 to 300% increases on the majority of files. So you're not the only one, I guess is what I'm trying to say, if that's happening to you right now. Most of the time, if they're renewing you and it's an older building that hasn't been updated, you should usually just be thankful that they're not making you update it. Does anyone have a property right now that someone hasn't renewed, like an insurance company? You can type one in the chat if you've got an older building that your insurance company did not renew on due to the updates. Okay, we got one. Two, there's a couple there. Three. So you can kind of see, like, these are prime examples of what happens in the insurance industry standpoint on how particular they are about these buildings being renovated. So when you're purchasing property, this is kind of where you guys want to start. The customer I talked to you about with respect to the full reno, he, fortunately for him, it was a foreclosure, and he's getting it at a good enough price point that it's worthwhile for him to put that level of renovations into it. Now, that's not going to be the same for everyone. And I think the biggest problem right now that a lot of people are having, and many of these people that are saying that they're having an issue with it right now, is that it has kind of come out of nowhere, and you shouldn't feel alone because we feel the same way as the broker. Is that we kind of got blindsided by it as well. So if you're feeling like your broker's not telling you, it's because they're experiencing the same thing as you, and it's kind of a hard topic to talk about. Now, the big things, which these are just like points that I'll kind of just tell in terms of older property, some of the main sticking points on what you should look to do. Obviously, landscaping is a huge one. If you get 1 to 2 claims on any type of rental property, especially multifamily, you're going to be very difficult to insure, if not impossible to insure. And a lot of the reason why I bring up landscaping is proper drainage and slopage will prevent your property from being flooded or create issues with water. And water's kind of the basis of why we are where we are. The majority of the claims and what they claim is the reason for this happening is due to water damage. Now, I think moving forward, right now it's bad. I think the overall forecast that we talk within the office is we expect it to start easing up within potentially 2 years. But the big thing for us overall is that if we have another natural disaster like a Calgary or a Fort McMurray fire, these rules aren't going to ease off. So we're kind of just biting our nails, waiting to see if the market's going to get back to normal, or if there's going to be an issue where they're going to become and they constrain the market a little bit more, and that's what they've done. So in terms of the things that you can do, obviously if you're buying newer, sometimes it seems like on the surface it's not as good of a purchase, but usually from the insurance standpoint it'll save you money in the long run. So the majority of my clients, I'd say to them, if it works out number-wise, always prefer newer or over older right now in the current state of the market insurance-wise. And that's what many of them have started to do. Now, that's not going to be for everyone. So if you're one of the people that can't do that and you have to buy older, it goes back to what I said before about finding something that has at least been updated to some extent. Now, how much of that? It really depends. You have to really pay attention to what you have available for renovation budgets when you're purchasing these places. And if you're a current homeowner and you're being pressured to renovate, it doesn't matter whether you're still with your insurer or your current insurance company. If you try to move, they're going to request those from you anyways. So if you think the answer is to shop and go somewhere else, they're going to make you do it anyways. So it doesn't help to go, oh, well, my insurance company doesn't want to renew due to the age of my electrical and my plumbing. I'm just going to go to XYZ company and try them. Well, they're probably going to get you to do it too. So and then you might lose discounts because you've been with them for a while or they had a really good rate, and you might eventually end up hurting yourself. Now, I'm not trying to sound negative or to make it any of you feel worse than it is. Obviously, it sucks that it's going up so much, and I talk about this every day, so I'm kind of used to it. But for many of us, all we can really do is deal with it in the way that makes sense. And for most of you, the easiest way to kind of prevent any issues when you're purchasing new property, for the people that own the property already, you kind of have to deal with it as it comes. But when you're purchasing new property, you have to really take into consideration the age of the building. Now, is anyone currently buying, say, an apartment building or a rental property, and they haven't talked to their broker about insurance yet? You can type a 1 in chat. Is this a subject that hasn't been brought up? Are any of you currently in the process of buying something? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so for many of you, if you're seeing the chat here, you're kind of seeing, and these are prime examples of kind of the way things are going. So with respect to the subject, you're seeing the evidence kind of in front of you. You're seeing live examples of what I'm saying and why it's impacting and how it's impacting people. And I think the biggest thing is a lot of people feel blindsided. I mean, you type in one if you feel blindsided by the insurance industry right now. Because you're not alone. And so I think moving forward for many of us and many of you that are investing in realty, Edmonton, particularly Alberta, is in a pretty rough spot with the regulation and the rules and kind of how everything is, because it's kind of changed. It started getting a little bit bad in 2019, and then in 20 and 21, they got really aggressive with their rules. Now, there's multiple factors into why this happened. You can look at, Fort McMurray had fire, then we had a flood, then we had Calgary with the hail. So home insurance hasn't really been profitable. And then when you couple that with the increasing amount of claims in condo buildings, apartment buildings, and pretty much any type of multifamily, they've really classified that business kind of as black sheep now. So if you're purchasing these properties and there's zero updates to them, on a more like business note, you need to start building in these renovations into your deal. If there's no room, you need to really consider whether or not you can afford to do the renovation to satisfy the insurance company, because they're going to want full updates. It's pretty much a guarantee. If it's 25 years or older, your insurance company is going to want it fully updated. Now, for some, it could be really cheap. For most, it's going to be quite expensive. So in the next, I'm just going to talk for a little bit more, and then in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to take just some random questions, and I'll answer a few. But I think overall, does anyone know or have a question pertaining to a current property that they're buying right now, that they want to just send right now? I can start a little bit early. I kind of want to see and use an example of a question so I can kind of relate it to probably many of the other people that have something going on. And then we can kind of chat a little bit about it, and it might relate to you and it might not. So you can go ahead. I'm going to take a sip of a drink right now. Oh, wait. On a side note, I think for many of us, and I'm just going to kind of talk about kind of the pricing and what I'm kind of seeing, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about single family and kind of the rates that we're currently seeing. So for an example, I've insured probably 25 single family dwellings. Well, they're bungalows, but they're dual suited, so they've got up and down renters. And insurance premiums on average on these types of properties are anywhere between $1,700 to $2,400, and they're all rated by postal code. And that's kind of an average. So if you're anywhere in that range, you should feel pretty satisfied. I'm just going to answer some of these. So I'm going to start with the initial question from James. And what are the best upgrades to do to a property to help save on insurance? To be perfectly honest, if the building is 25 years or older, and this is a three-part question because it depends on what type of building you own. If it's a single-family dwelling, or, you know, and when I say single-family dwelling, I'm also saying a bungalow or a two-story with multiple units. I'm just referring to all those as a single family. Those properties themselves, if it's older than 25 years, you should always update the roof first, and then you should work your way between roof, hot water tank, electrical, plumbing, and heating. Because heating, you can generally do the maintenance on and kind of keep it up to date, replace some parts, and you can kind of do it through that format without fully replacing it. But you should always start with the roof, because there's certain markets that are available that provide further discounting with newer roof systems. So it helps to save you on premium. So that's that question. I'm going to kind of just bounce through here. the condo regulations and deductible chargeback change causing any condo owner problems and/or issues. I think the biggest thing with this, Mike, is numerous people might not have got information on how the regulations changed, so they might not have been aware that their policy was not responding to the deductible of the condo board. So I think if you're a condo unit owner and you haven't confirmed that you have the proper coverage for condo deductible assessment coverage from your condo board, you need to call your insurance broker and confirm that you have it. You want at least $50,000 just to be safe, but you can also reference the policy of the condo board to confirm that you have enough coverage. We're just going to kind of go through a bunch of these. The aluminum wiring. Aluminum wiring's in a tough place. Ken, it is kind of really frowned upon. We have maybe one or two markets that would even consider it, but their coverage is not the greatest. So when it comes to our availability to markets, and when we're saying, when I'm referencing everything on why you need to update and maintain and renovate a property, is it's about availability to markets. So if you don't do those things, we don't have availability of markets to insure you. So the best way for me to put this, an unrenovated home, the power's in the insurance company's hands. A fully renovated home, the power's in your hands as the homeowner, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the frame of reference we use. Will you need gap insurance coverage to get the property around and updated? Sorry, Ryan, I need a little bit more, I guess, more clarification on what exactly you mean there. And sorry, I think I'm pronouncing your name right, but they almost always, if it's aluminum, at some point, at the bare minimum, if you have aluminum wiring in your house, you have to get it copper pigtailed. That kind of helps out as well. But you should try to rewire it. Now, it's not feasible for most people. You should try to rewire it whenever you can. Yeah. And then we're going to go down to Mark's question. On a 40-year-old 12-plex, I can see that the insurance wants to see the roof, boiler, and hot water has been updated. What update are they expecting on electrical other than... So this is a good question because there's a lot of confusion on what we mean when we say renovated. So when I say renovated, I'm talking you're tearing out and you're replacing all of the plumbing, all of the wiring within the walls. That is what the insurance industry expects of you. So if you're not doing that, you're not satisfying the insurance company, and if they ever did an audit or inspection and they found it wasn't done, your policy could be technically in a status of misrepresentation. It depends on the insurance company and how they interpret it. But when they say we want it fully renovated and replaced, it means you're going in, you're taking all the wiring out of the wall, you're taking all the plumbing out of the walls, and you're replacing it fully. That's what we mean when we're talking in a full renovation of electrical and plumbing. Yeah. Let's see here. Pierre, this is kind of specific to a specific type. And I want to just say this as well. I'm in Alberta, so if you guys are in a different province, such as the East Coast, like Quebec, or the rules could be different out there. I'm not going to say it's the same across the country, but here in Alberta, in the western part of Canada, generally speaking, they have the same kind of behavior. But when I refer to the upgrades to electrical, it's bringing it to code. So 60 amp is not standard anymore on a house. You're probably going to be running 100 amps. So whatever type of panel, and they like circuit breakers, whatever you got to do to upgrade it, like you see Diane here had to upgrade electrical panel to 100 amp. That's kind of standard. They don't want to see 60 amp anymore. It's basically frowned upon. Just looking at this question by Craig here. What percentage of owners who own and rent out condos/townhouses do not have insurance? A lot. So Craig asked, what percentage of owners who own and rent out condos/townhouses do not have insurance? Surprisingly enough, due to the nature of what's been going on, a lot of people are finding themselves without insurance coverage, or they've been under the impression, so I'm going to use an example. I don't have much time. I'm supposed to end now, so I'm just going to quickly answer and finish this question. But specifically to a condo unit owner. Now, I'm not talking a condo building owner. I'm talking a condo unit owner. Before, they were under the impression that the condo board was insuring the building. Now, this has created a problem and has led to the reason why rates are exceedingly high with condos specifically. And that's because the condo board's insurance company didn't have anyone to subrogate or sue back due to them not carrying a policy. And the reason why that's important is because when we have a policy, we have liability built into that policy, and it will pay out with respect to our personal liability. So if I create or have done and caused damage to said building, and now in the new classifications is the unit owner's responsibility, and his policy would respond. So I just want to kind of gauge, I know it's a little bit of doom and gloom, and many of you guys are probably feeling a little bit stranded and probably unsure with what's going on. So I'm just going to kind of finish on this note. You guys can obviously shop the market. You can look around. I think many of the problems you're going to find kind of wherever you go. However, you can get a second opinion if you want to call us and take a look, and you can just send us a copy of your policy, let us know what you have, and we can take a look at it for you. We don't need to rewrite everything. If at just first glance we can tell you, hey, this is what you've got, you should maybe keep a lookout for this, or you should maybe do this, that's what we're going to do. So you can do that. The email is in there. The best place to connect to me is via email. You can just the easiest thing to do is just send me a copy of your policy, tell me what you have, and then we'll go from there, and we can kind of get the process started. Yeah, hopefully that's been insightful, and thank you.